when we talk about gender, people gravitate towards the masculine gender and like, what are the men like in these novels? But I am really interested in the heroines. Talk about the McBrides. Every single one of those heroines, it's different in how masculine they are, how feminine they are, or what kind of gender stereotypes they fit into. Like, how much leeway is there in a Western to play with that?
I think people in Westerns, readers of Westerns, they like a bit of spunk, right? They have to be women who have sass, right? Who have backbone, Maddie in the first McBride book is probably the least of those. She's probably the gentlest, sweetest one.
Is part of that the escapist fantasy of like, you don't want to see a heroine just be constantly downtrodden?
Yeah, well, I've said this a few times. I think of Anne of Green Gables as like a feminized Western. It's a domestic Western because you're looking at a similar time period, and this was the experience for women on the frontier, right? Is like building township and community. And I've often thought about how you start to collide kind of feminized Western with the traditional Western that we're used to seeing. And I think, so much of that is about what kind of heroine have you got. I think a lot of Westerns show a range of femininities and maybe less range of masculinities.
I would argue it's not a range of masculinities. I find they're all very stereotyped.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Do you think we want those spunky like heroines because of how rough we believe the West would have been? And because that's what needs to come up against the patriarchy? Or do you think it's because the idea of the West is this really weird place where like a shit ton of cultures all came together to what they were calling like the New World?
Yeah.
And so you do have a whole range of femininity just because most people pick a very different person from a very different place and time.
I think in actual fact, if you think about actual settler colonies, the kind of people who did it, like you've got no room to be a girl.
That's so fair.
Like it's work.
Also, our contemporary understanding of what femininity in that time and place is different probably to what they thought of it as.
Yes. Yeah.
Because maybe it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I don't want to get my hands dirty, I don't want to work. Again, this is a very sexist ideology of what femininity is.
And also it's very classist, right?
Yeah.
I know what you mean, because I don't think they at all would have conceptualized femininity the way we are. And I think a lot of our idea of femininity in the West is coming from like 1950s American movies and TV shows. I just did an event last year for Marrying Off Morgan McBride, I think, in Sydney, where they did a showing of Calamity Jane. I love that film, but what really irritates me at the end is that we see her, she's just gotten married and she just looks like Doris Day as we imagine Doris Day, like beautifully made up, beautiful big dress, like, and it's like, no, I want her at the beginning of the film. I really liked her at the beginning of the film when she's in her buckskins and she's rough as nails. She's funny, she's sassy, she's tough. I want that at the end of the book. I am thinking about that when it comes to Junebug McBride, that I don't want to clean her up.
Please don't.